welcome to the Golden Hour. I am Golden Duffy, your host for this show, and I am live today, which is really exciting, and I have an incredible guest to share with you. So pumped about this incredible woman, Dr. Leslie Kalyn. She is a total transformation coach, international speaker, clinician, and author. She has helped her Living Your Mastery members create health, wealth, happiness, and fulfillment by aligning with their authentic desires. Doesn't that sound great? Her clients are ages 18 to 65 and are located in the USA, Europe, New Zealand, and Canada. Leslie is an entrepreneur, having owned her own regenerative practice and med spa, held various C-suite medical positions, and launched a coaching practice to meet the increasing demand for guidance during the pandemic. Thank you very much. Leslie is an accomplished speaker, having speaking engagements at various global summits in the personal growth arena. She holds a bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degree in nursing and has over a decade of experience practicing as a nurse practitioner. Leslie was born in Canada and is Ukrainian by heritage. On a personal note, Leslie is a competitive Argentinian tango dancer, loves to travel the world, learn new languages, seeks new adventures, and ways to give back. It is her passion and purpose to help others overcome their most challenging life circumstances, and demonstrates dedication to her calling by practicing what she preaches in every moment of her life. She has a relentless curiosity to investigate and experiment to achieve higher levels of bliss, abundance, vitality, and fulfillment by pushing the limits of what is possible. As a result, she discovers new life hacks and self-mastery tools that allow people to break through to the next level of their life experience. She has developed a talent for deeply understanding the obstacles preventing people from achieving their goals, and has mastered the process of self-evolution using the approach she has developed. Through her course, speaking, and one-on-one guidance, she helps others get in touch with their authentic desires and makes them materialize efficiently and effectively using the practical approach she created and uses herself. Welcome, Dr. Leslie. I'm so excited to have you here. And this is like right up my alley. Like when we met and started talking, we couldn't stop. And I love having people on that just bring so much to the table. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, it is so awesome. I know I felt the same way. It was like, I felt like I've known you from the beginning of time. Like everything, it was like, this is my long lost sister. Like we're so aligned with everything. It was just like fireworks. We were just, chatting, everything aligned. So yeah, I'm so pleased to be here.
Yeah. And I love that we can bring this energy live to people. My husband and I talk a lot about alchemy and like alchemizing our lives. And these types of shows where we come on and we bring our energy and we share empowering messages and help remind people of who they are is transformation, I think, at its finest.
It is. Absolutely. There's so much to say about energy. And we're in this age where we can't deny it anymore. Research is really catching up. Physics and spirituality. And spirituality is kind of a taboo word in my dictionary because it's so charged and people don't like it and that sort of thing. So let's just call it connection, right? Interconnection, or energy is fine too. But yes, physics and this sort of energy understanding of who we are beyond the material, that what we think is material and tangible, is really starting to bridge. And so we cannot any longer deny that there's this consciousness, that there's this sort of abstract creative space beyond our mind, beyond our brain and our body that exists, and we have to tap into it. So yes, we have to align with ourselves on every level. But yeah, it's very exciting times because people are really waking up and wanting to understand how they can really create their best life. And there are very specific ways in which we do that and things we have to consider.
I love that. Oh my goodness. So coming from like how do we go beyond the bad hair days? Like how do we
the frizz?
How do we deal with the bad hair days when we're not feeling good and getting past the superficial where our mind, right? Let's talk a little bit about the mind, how our mind likes to work on those problems and to make us feel certain ways so that we aren't in the element of explosive growth or vitality or knowing who we are. So how do we get beyond those moments when we're feeling the doubt, when we're feeling, connected to something that it really is just very superficial?
Right. That's a
Yeah.
great question. And it's complicated in the way that there's multiple things that are involved in it. So, even though I've sort of gone through my awakening and I'm in my expansion process of my self evolution, where I'm really breaking the boundaries of what is possible and manifesting things that seem impossible and creating a life that's truly magical in every moment, to it really comes to being authentic and understanding yourself as a being of energy, having a physical experience and
Yeah.
understanding and being aware of the difference.
Yeah.
So there's duality, right?
Yes.
So there's a great amount of just coming into that understanding that I am a human and I have bad hair days, and it's okay to be mad at my frizz. But it's not even about being mad. It's like, oh my God.
You can't even see, by the way. It looks like perfection to me. So.
It was so funny. It's funny because we were teasing ourselves about our bad hair day in this humidity. But it's understanding that there's always duality. There's always the human experience. But you have to laugh at yourself and you have to understand I'm human and it's okay. So when the simplest way, like the life hack way, other than, because you dive into the rabbit hole and you go into deep belief restructuring and all the things. But really, if someone is really preoccupied about their bad hair day in the moment, the first thing you do to get you changed out of that state, because it's all about your state, right? Is because circumstances don't matter. Your state of being matters. Right. So if you're miserable about your hair misery is going to turn into a bad phone call. It's going to turn into whatever, because this is a simple physics, like attracts like, right? So immediately you just want to laugh. You really just want to go, oh my God, I'm having a frizzy day. I'm going to be live on a show. And you know what? Yeah. This is real. This is real life. And it's okay. So just the first thing is to change your state and be happy. Choose the state in which you want to be in. Yes. What do you prefer? Do you want to be miserable about your hair? Or you want to be like, you know what? I'm human. Or I'm going to make a joke about it. And it's okay, because everything really is okay. So that is like the easiest first thing to do. And to help people change your state, you have to change your physiology. So shoulders up, smile, make a silly face in the mirror, do something like that with your hair and just go, okay, I changed my perspective of it, my physiology, and my mindset. It's not a big deal. Let it go. Yeah. And then, so that's like the biggest, easiest life hack. But if you really want to not end up in those repeated cycles of, God, I wake up every day and I'm feeling miserable and what's going on and blah, 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 then you got to go down the rabbit hole and you have to really look at your belief systems, feel into your energy, connect with your higher logic. I've talked to you about this before. Yes. What is your higher logic? Is it your higher self? Is it God? Is it an alien, a monkey in the tree? I don't care. It doesn't matter. Whatever you believe. Yeah. But it's connecting and then working with your belief systems and then having the physiology internally to support that connection and that clarity.
Right, right. So would you recommend meditation for that process, or do you have a different process?
That's great. So meditation is another one of those like profanities in my dictionary. People are meditated out. They just don't want to do it. And I understand, because and let me share with you my experience as to why meditation people have such a difficult time with. Yes. When your body is physically congested, if you're not eating the right things, if you have toxicity, if you're not purified, if your gut-brain axis is not clear, you're not going to be able to visualize, because we had talked about this before. Wherever you get your insights, your inspiration, your wisdom, the monkey in the tree, that is where your ideas and thoughts are conceived. Yes. And you have to have your brain, which is the receiver of that, to be crystal clear. Most people don't. This is why mental health and mental wellness is so important, because if your brain isn't functioning, you can't receive. It's like the bunny ears on the antenna of the TV. They got to be straight to receive the signal, so you don't have the blurry picture. And then, You need to be able to perceive that. And that's where your belief systems and your understanding come into play. So it's really, we need to focus on all of those levels to be able to really work with ourselves in the best way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because there is this level of, it's like it's having all the things checked off on your chart. And it's like if you're trying to do one area of your life, but you're ignoring the other areas. That's why I wanted to bring this show,
Right.
the mental, the physical, the spiritual, because if we don't have these connections, like if our physical body is in so much pain and it's so off because of what we're ingesting inside of it, how are we going to get to a higher vibratory state when our
Yes.
body is in a low vibratory state, right?
Right.
So it's
Mhm.
about having all these things in alignment. And it doesn't mean that you can't start today. It just means that you have to start looking at all the intricacies of your life that are affecting each area of your life to connect with that
Yeah.
deeper truth.
That's right. And so with meditation, when you don't have the ability to focus because you have maybe physical
Yeah.
congestion, meditation isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Period. I've
Yeah.
seen it, I experienced it. I've worked so long with my coaching clientele trying to get them to visualize. They're like, I'm just not a visualizer. And that's okay. There's other ways to meditate, but still the focus, the clarity, the attention that it takes, people just can't do it. So I say, I guess we're throwing it out. There's got to be another way. If you don't want to do the physical cleansing, which takes time,
Yep.
then what I usually suggest is doing more contemplation. And really, you don't need to be in a deep meditation to start connecting with yourself. So I generally recommend for people to do more walking contemplation. So we can circumvent, meditation is a stepping stool to get to presence. That's really the outcome of meditation. There are other things, but we want to be able to be in total observance of our life with a still mind, but wakeful.
Yes.
Meditation is great for certain utility. A lot of people want to go to all these crazy wild places in their meditation, which I did, and it's wonderful. But what does it serve in an everyday frizzy-haired life? Not a lot necessarily. But when you do contemplation and you're like, you can be present and observing and listening to the birds chirping and hearing the wind blow when you're walking in the park, that is an actual tool that you can apply right now immediately in your day-to-day life. So when you have that bad hair frizzy day, you can just go,
Yeah, I'm okay.
it's okay.
Okay.
And then you can observe your emotion about it. So, so that's working on being present is more important to me, I think, than the meditation. And contemplation is sitting with your thoughts, sitting with your belief system, asking yourself questions.
Yeah.
I always say, okay, how do I do this better? If I want to materialize this, or I would prefer this instead of my circumstance, I ask my higher logic, okay, how do I create something better? How do I do this better? How do I make this more efficient? What do I need to see to be able to move forward? And then you just sit with it. You forget about it. You send it up. You forget about it. You can maybe, or not, come back to it if the inspiration hits, and then you can write it. Or again, the more you're present. I used to say this when I was very, very heavy spiritual. I would say, in the stillness, the word of God speaks.
Yes.
Now I don't use God so much just because my niche has expanded and there's so much charge around that word too.
Yes.
In the stillness, the universe speaks, your higher logic speaks, and it's true. So being still and present is really what is the most important thing. And there's so many ways to do it other than meditation.
Yes.
But in those moments, like in those moments of stillness, I saved my life, because when I had a bottle of pills in my hand, I was practicing meditation so much, I learned how to be still. I got this droplet of information. It just said verbatim, it's been many, many, many years, but it was essentially, you don't have to do this. There's a better way. You can have a better life. And if I wasn't still, if I hadn't honed that stillness, I wouldn't have heard it. And that bottle of pills could have been in my mouth.
Right.
And there's so many people where they're so congested, they're so scrambled, they're using, hallucinogens or chemicals, and blocks your connection. Those critical moments, you need that clarity.
That's so true. That's so true. I love the idea of like that physical congestion. It's so
Yes.
interesting when we talk to people. I was talking to someone recently, and she was a single mom, and she has a twins that are 6 months old, and then she has a 9 and an 8-year-old, and she's a single mom. And she was just saying, well, I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm not interested in a relationship until the kids are like 18. I was like, wait a second. Like, you want to do this whole thing by yourself. And
Wow.
the bottom line, this is a waitress that I'm talking to. The bottom line was, she was like, who's going to want me?
I
And
know.
it
Right.
was, and this is the
Oh.
limitations that people put up. Yeah. And I definitely feel like my husband and I talked to her for like a half an hour, just
Mhm.
helping to plant seeds of the connection between what
Yes.
is possible,
Hmm.
instead of what your limitation and your belief about yourself is
Right.
creating. So I love the nature part of this too, because I'm a big walker, and I
Yeah.
promote getting out and moving forward and being in nature. We call it forest bathing over here. When you
Oh.
go in, yeah, it's amazing. Like, forest bathing is like when you go for a walk in nature and you don't have any outside sense, like you don't have any inside music, or you're listening to the sounds of the forest. And in California, that's
Yes.
really challenging, but we have this incredible canyon, and I'll go out at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's no one out there except the birds, the squirrels, the rabbits. And it is one of the most enjoyable things I do. But as far as being present goes, I'm probably more present in those moments than in
Sure.
in my meditation, I am definitely way, way, way present. But in
Mhm.
those moments, to me, that's the magic of my day, is being able to start
Yes.
my day.
And that's exactly the key. Meditation, there's so many different levels, like brain wave
Yeah.
states that we
Yep.
can get to in meditation, but they're not always all accessible. I mean, eventually, as we're humanly evolving, I
Yeah.
mean, I know that our capacity is insane with the quote unquote junk DNA we have and all the stuff that's turning on, and just our awareness, our ability to perceive and control our perception. There's so much more that we're going to be able to experience,
Access.
but
Hmm.
access, absolutely. But that's that ingraining the ability to be present in real life is what is practical. Again, I'm all about practicality. My doctor of nursing practice, I was all about looking at the research, figuring it all out, and finding a very practical, innovative way to make it work now at the
Yes.
bedside, at the
Yes.
organization level, whatever.
Yeah.
So yes, the presence. I'm all about functionality, and I want people to get results.
Yeah.
So it's meditation's great, but again, you can't always reach all those alpha, all the
And
wavelengths
how many
in day
people
to
have
day.
how many people, like you said, have limitations on the meditation because of what's
Yeah.
being driven inside of their
Yes.
bodies, energetically,
Right.
belief systems, all of that stuff. So I'm a huge proponent of meditation, but I totally understand what you're
Yes.
saying, because there are people that are not going to be attracted,
Mhm.
especially people who are high energy, maybe I hate labels, but like considered ADHD. They're
Sure.
going to feel like that's an impossibility for them. But
Sure.
for them to go out and go for a walk and notice a bird in a tree,
Yes.
everybody can do that, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. And yeah, and so again, it's my approach is very individualized, but I find for a good majority of people that are sort of just, and I'm speaking to the people that are just sort of stepping into this and wanting to really change their life and they don't know where to begin. I don't go right to meditation. Once
right.
people get contemplation, they have a little bit more presence and they know what it feels like, then they're usually more open to being able to meditate. So meditation, I'm not saying don't do it. It's
Yeah,
very important. It's a very important part of my practice. But it's again entryway. What is the best way to get people who are struggling with it? There's always a way. There's always a way to get people where they want
always.
to go. So
Yeah,
meditation isn't necessarily the first thing. It is for some people, but some people it's not. We can kind of again, it's a life
yep.
hack for
It's
people with
tailored.
ADHD. Yeah,
Yep.
we life hack it by practicing presence, walking meditations, walking contemplations, and you can get so much. It's we don't care how, as long as we can get the inner connection going, so we can receive what is being conceived by our, higher logic. So
That's amazing. And what would you
yeah.
say, like, physically, when we're talking about this physical congestion, and what can people do, like now today. It was funny. I just heard a thing. I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about sugar and the fact that like one thing of Coke basically has the same amount of sugar as 30 oranges. But when you eat 30 oranges, you know, your body is going to respond differently because there's fiber, and fruit
Right.
responds differently. But how we're treating our bodies with these highly addictive, you know, chemical things. And
Yes.
then we're expecting ourselves to be happy and feel vital and have energy. So, like, what are a couple tips you can give to our audience about the physical congestion and how
Mhm.
they can start clearing? And you can share anything you want here. I know you have a cool philosophy going on right now that I do want you
Yes. Yeah.
to talk to me about because it's interesting.
Okay.
But I got some snags, we'll call it.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, sure. Oh, I did too. So the most important, the fundamental concept I want people to take away is we need to have a clean connection to our receiver, so that the receiver, which is our brain,
Yeah.
right? So our brain can be clear, stable in mood, we can control our perception. We have basically a stability, so
Yes.
we can receive what's happening coming from our highest logic, our higher self, or wherever, the universe, whatever you want to call it,
Yep.
because that is where authenticity comes from, right? It's, you want to align with your highest good and have the fulfillment and all of the things. So
Yes.
the gut brain axis is a real thing. More and more research is showing and validating this, that there are billions, I think maybe even trillions. I haven't looked at the most recent research, but of neurotransmitters and nerves in our gut that communicate to our brain.
Right.
And, you know, like the butterfly feelings that you get when something excites you, that's actually your second brain in your gut, like activating. It's the neurotransmitters, it's the dopamine. It's like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
So we need to understand that the gut brain axis exists, and it communicates in multiple ways, not just neurally, humorally, hormonally, and in immune pathways. So this is a very real thing that we need to understand and consider.
Mhm.
So we need to focus on getting the microbiome, which is just basically the environment in the guts, as stable and clear as possible. So that is super, super, super important. And you can do that in many different ways,
Mhm.
depending on your philosophy and where you're at in your evolution and what you want to accomplish. But for people who are wanting to do more of working from a carb based diet, who
Mhm.
have fruits and vegetables and eat rice and that sort of thing, we need to be focusing on the fiber and the prebiotics, probiotics, and working with the environment that way.
Okay.
So that's really, really important. If people like myself that are carnivore based, that are butter, salt, and meat, who don't have the pesticides and the yeast and the carbs that are creating the stickiness and all the things, again, it's a completely different operating system. We
Yes.
don't need the fiber. We don't need the prebiotics, probiotics. We're cleaning out the system by ensuring that we have enough fat and butter to keep the colon and everything clear. So
Interesting.
again, a different approach. Neither one is better or worse, but it just depends on the way in which your body is operating. But it's, so the strategy, specific strategies depend on what nutritional approach that you're taking. But the key, nonetheless, whichever way you're operating, is to keep that microbiome as clean and like crystalline as possible. So that is
So where
in
did
a
you,
nutshell.
I want to go on your journey a little bit. So
Okay.
where did you begin? Because so we talked a lot about the carnivore thing, and it's basically you're putting a lot of meat in your body, a lot of fat. Now this, to me, it's hard for me to grasp because I've grown up in a society that tells me that fruits and vegetables are very important. And for a little while, I was
Mhm.
against the fruits, and then I was hanging out with this guy who does all fruit, and so he started to change my brain about fruit. And so I started
Mhm.
adding fruits back in, and I'm like, wow, I really love fruit and I really love vegetables. So tell me the journey that you went from, like, did you start to kind of do, because I did keto for a while, and I felt pretty good. One of my issues, I think, was that I've always based my results on the scale and not
Oh,
necessarily on how I feel
right.
or even how my body looks. You know, I could look super lean and fit, but if that scale goes over a certain number, I'm like, this doesn't work. I need to stop. So
Ah.
So give me a little bit about the journey, because I'm on a journey.
Sure.
We're all on a journey, and I know you're a researcher, and so research is, and I am as well. Is research is very important to me.
Mhm.
So give me a little bit about the journey and how you came to really grasp the philosophies of I'm a lioness and I'm going to eat like a lion eats.
Yes. Yeah, it's that's a great question. I did ballet when I was younger since I was like a kid, and I used to eat butter under the table when I was like 5, 6. My mom would yell at me,
I think
"You
we
can't
all
eat that." Yeah, right? But again, as children, we know what we need before we're conditioned. And
yes,
it's so funny because I mean, fast forwarding, I'm like, oh my God, I'm that 6 year old. This is what I needed. This is what
yeah,
I knew when I was 5, 6, what my body needed.
yeah,
So over the years, I did different things. So being a dancer, I did the starving thing, which didn't last very long. Did not thrive. My body needs muscle and meat on the bones. I'm not a starving dancer. So
yeah,
that career ended. And then I did like the regular food pyramid because I'm from Canada, you
yeah,
eat vegetables and the carbs. And then I tried to do less carbs, more vegetables. I was a bikini muscle competition, was very successful in that. And so I was doing a lot of meat, still having some modest carbs, like 100 grams, was walking around at like 13% body fat for years,
yeah,
but it was exhausting and so damaging to my body. And then I'm just like, when I went through my sort of, if you will, my awakening, spiritual awakening, when all the crazy wild things started happening, I was very plant-based. I did a lot of tofu and vegetables. I just felt I needed the lighter. So
yeah.
oftentimes people at different parts in their evolutionary process, their body intuitively tells them what they need.
So
So I
true.
wanted to feel light. All my energy was going into my upper chakras, my
Yeah,
upper energy as I'm learning how to intuit more and getting downloads and receiving information and experiencing all the psychedelic crazy things without needing a drug. Never done
right.
a drug in my life, but wow, I swear I was on some with some of
Yeah,
the things that I experienced in meditation and the downloads and the insights and the awakening. So I had eaten a very light diet because that's oftentimes what happens when people are expanding.
yeah,
They can't handle the heaviness of the food of
right.
meat. So, it was very light and I would have maybe turkey every now and then. My body looked, I mean, relatively the same ish, but I was having a lot of sugar cravings. I always craved sugar. I was
Yeah,
like a sugar addict. Like during the pandemic when the stores would close at like 9 or 10,
yeah.
I would literally by midnight, because I'm a night owl, like, oh my God, I have to go to the corner store. I'm having such a bad sugar fix. Like I'd throw out all the candy and then I'd like be a candy addict. It's horrible. And I'm like, this is not right. I could eat tons and tons of food and never feel satiated. And my body was craving sugar and I
Yeah,
didn't understand until, so as I was kind of coming down from this whole upper chakra thing, my energy was starting to equalize and I was starting to get back into my body, which is where we need to be. We need to go up, but we have to remember to come back
we know
down.
we have to be human, right? We still have to
Right.
be in these physical bodies.
It feels good to be up there, but life falls apart and you have to come back and be human into
So
this
true.
duality. So as I started to ground back into myself, I found my lust for meat was coming back. And
Interesting.
so again, you don't judge. As a researcher, you
Yeah,
can't judge. You have to be observing.
yeah,
And I'm a little mad scientist. I experiment everything with myself and I'm always pushing the limits so I can help everyone else very easily and
yeah,
practically get their results. So I started eating more meat and I'm like, God, when I'd eat a steak after 3 days, I still don't crave sugar. I'm like, okay, there's something to the fat thing. So I just, started just feeling again as I was evolving more and feeling the inspiration and the drive to do more and step into my authenticity as a speaker, as a guide, as a podcaster, as all these things.
yeah,
Again, I was just getting more and more impetus from my connection that I need to eat meat. And so I just through the serendipity that exists because I'm always receiving how do I create better, how do I function better as a human with my goals in mind, carnivore just kind of
yeah,
hit me in the head.
yeah,
And I'm like, okay, I researched and I just went hardcore and it has been really all I wanted to do was not fight my body. I didn't
yeah,
want to have sugar cravings. And wow, what has resulted physically for me that I didn't even realize I needed, that I had the issues or was even possible to create from this style of eating. my mental clarity, my ability to
Connect.
hear,
Yeah.
sense, experience my higher logic is like next level. My mood, my hormones, like my whole connection is just like, it's
Yeah.
like a chord. Before it was, it was a
Yeah.
decent, now I feel like literally I experience it as this expanded connection, very crystal clear.
Wow.
So that's the evolution that I went on. Again, so that's where I'm at this point. Who knows when I,
Oh, I know.
evolve, there might be a new thing that I will do. But it's funny because the transition point, like you were asking, the evolution, I was eating more meat for a while, less carbohydrates, and I was eating mostly, I was feeling I want bread and cauliflower, which are actually two of the lower oxalate foods. And oxalates are actually a really, really big piece that we want to avoid in terms of our regenerative practice. And I'm or our regenerative capacity. I'm all about being, I don't know if I told you this before, but I'm not 28 in linear earth years,
Yeah.
but I am 28.
Interesting.
That's where my perception is. This is where I've chosen to be and hold my space at in
Yeah.
my physiology. And I'm aligning my life with that. And I'm very 100% about it because perception
Yeah.
is everything.
Yeah.
Perception circumvents any other collective or
Yep.
personal or conditioned experiences. And so, for me, this diet also aligned with that. And the oxalates I actually found out is a big piece of our degenerative process and our aging, what we think is normal aging.
Yes.
So that was another really important sort of
It
added
sounds like the fountain of youth
bonus.
that you just described.
I mean, that honestly, so again, I'm a mad scientist and nothing is impossible with the things I've created in my life and that speed in which I have. I mean, it's like, it's go time. I'm stretching and challenging a lot of these constructs that we think are normal when there's people living to 150, 120,
Yeah.
130 easily
Yeah.
in other places. And not all of them don't have the exact same diet or lifestyle.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
not impossible. It's not,
No.
and they look so young,
Yeah.
so young. Certain ethnicities even have, you're like, oh my God, you're 80. You look like you're 25. We
Totally.
all can do that.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm aligning with that. So that's like my new experimentation with myself or what I'm aligning with. So again, the carnivore diet happened to align with many, many of my goals.
I love that so much. So, so then when it comes to the things that you were talking about, as far as like bread and cauliflower, what are the major foods that you would suggest? Like, if somebody said, "Okay, the carnivore thing feels a little aggressive, a little extreme," what are some ways
Yes.
and things that you would suggest that people cut some things out just to
Yeah.
start creating more optimal health? Obviously, sugar is at the top of that list.
Number one. Yes, sugar is poison. It's really like the root of all evil. And I
Ser-
knew that being a healthcare professional, I'm like, oh my God, I shouldn't be eating all this sugar. I know better. What's happening? But again, I didn't understand the other
Right.
things. So sugar, 100%. It is so insulin driving. It's the root of the fat isn't the problem. It's when you have fat and sugar. The sugar
Yeah.
makes it sticky and then it clogs.
Yep.
Fat without sugar, it's a whole
Yeah.
other ball game.
Yeah.
So sugar, 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 out, out, out.
Yep.
I would definitely encourage people to look up the different, there's charts that exist on high, medium, and low oxalate foods.
Okay.
I can't list all of them off the top of
No,
my
no,
head. I
no.
mean, onions, mushrooms are low oxalates, cauliflower, low oxalates, certain types of flours like to make
Yep.
breads, but the sugar oftentimes goes to the bread. So there's certain foods that I would suggest eliminating. Oxalates cause kidney stones, and that was one that, like, day 6 of my carnivore, I passed a kidney stone when I was at a Argentine tango. It's called a milonga social, bleeding, the whole thing, ripping my insides out. It felt like it was horrible, and I didn't know this was going to be a side effect, that when you remove oxalates and your body starts regenerating, the little stones that I had apparently start dissolving at small enough so they could pass.
Interesting.
So that, just switching to low oxalate foods
Yep.
will be very powerful for your kidney health
Mm.
and for your, just again, your capacity to start to start stopping to stop that degenerative process. Because when we sleep, we're supposed to be healing. We're
Right.
supposed to be regenerating. It's a restoration period of time.
Yeah.
If we have inflammation, we can't sleep well, we're not going to get that. But then also if we somehow drug ourselves, because some people drug themselves to try and, go to sleep with melatonin or whatever,
Yeah.
then you still aren't getting the maximum restoration because you have oxalates that are your body's trying to get rid of and dump and chelate instead of using that time to, I've got a crystal clear 6, 7, 8 hours of just repairing. So
Wow.
oxalates would sugar, which is obviously high oxalates, and doing low oxalates food is like an easy first thing anyone can do.
Really good advice. So when it comes to getting off of, all of these different foods, what's the time frame of feeling bad to feeling good? Have you seen it different with different people, or is it basically like you're going to have a week or two where you feel pretty down?
When you speak of the carnivore or?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, so if you
That's
go,
what I think mostly scares people is like, oh my gosh, if I don't have carbs, I'm going to die. you know?
I thought that too.
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I going to do? But the first 3 days are horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going to be real. Any addiction, the first
Yeah.
3 days, they say it's mental. It's a mental
It
game.
is. Yep.
So if you can get past the 3 days, you're golden.
Yes.
So, so, so it's just because the parasites, the yeast, everything in your gut is being suffocated of sugar.
Yep.
You're gonna have the withdrawal just from the sugar, but also you're gonna have the toxins. You're gonna have the little parasites communicating like, give me more because I'm dying. Like they really act up, right? The yeast really acts up, that bubbles over. So it's going to be hard. Day 2 of my carnivore, I was like, the little dialogue was going on in my head. Like, I need sugar. Maybe I'm like, no, where is that coming from? No, we're not doing that. Stop.
It's the sugar monster. So, I call it the sugar monster.
The sugar monster was there. Like, where are you? Get out of my head. Get out of my energy field. We're talking to my parasites. No, I'm in charge, not you. So the first 3 days really, really suck.
Yeah.
And then so just get over that first part. There is an adaptation phase that takes place. Some people have it worse than others. Clearly, was a sugar monster myself.
Right.
So it was much harder. I had much more to pass. I had the kidney stones. I had all this crazy 3 different phases of parasites and stuff in my guts that I passed over 21, 22 days. I also had some nausea a little bit, which is common because you're switching from, again, it's like you're taking your car, going from gas to electric, but it's not like you're just taking it out and putting you're like integrating and meshing it at the same time while you're still driving the car. So the wires cross your body's like, we were sugar and now we're keto. Like what are you doing? So the enzymes have to pick up, and that sort of thing. So there's a certain amount of nausea that happens that people have to be aware of. But you can, again, if you do your research, it's not that difficult to find some hacks of how to overcome that as your body adapts. Right. It is a commitment. I usually say dedicate 30 days. Like you have to commit. 30 days. Trust me, after 30 days, if you do it, it's going to be a whole other experience. You'll have lots of ample data to compare from how you were before and after. And then you can decide if it's worth it to keep going. But honestly, it's actually a good thing to do just to reset your body, your microbiome, and just like give it a try if you don't want
how much
to
better,
do it forever.
How much better do you feel now?
Oh my God. Like this is way better than I could have ever expected. I sleep like the drop of the hat. I used to spend an hour or two in what I would call like a twilight sleep, where I'd play with the different levels of consciousness and get downloads and creativity. And I thought that it was just me wanting to do it. Yeah. No, I was just
couldn't fall asleep.
And I was making use of that non-sleep time.
Yeah.
It was great. It was fun. I mean, I got to spend like an hour or so at the end of my day, just, flying all over the place and feeling cool and getting in a good state. I don't have inflammation in my body with the amount of work I did in my competition days, I would get like really bad jitters in my legs at nighttime.
Ah,
Anytime I started working out or danced heavy or whatever, I barely have them. Like last night I had them a little because I danced for 3 hours, but I
yep.
just do a little bit of stretch and rub and it's done. It used to be excruciating where I could never sleep. So the inflammation is done. My iron deficiency that I had
Wow.
since I was a kid, no more.
Yeah.
No more. My vitamin D levels are ridiculously high. I mean, my clarity, my mood, which
Yeah.
you need if your mind is not clear, you cannot align with your highest good. You will
No.
not be able to see it. You will be blocked.
Yeah.
So my ability to connect and hear insights is just,
Yeah.
it's so fast. It's so clear. Um, what else? I was in a car accident. I got hit by a car
Oh,
in my car, and I had this acne that was breaking out like a stress response,
yeah.
and my hormones kind of got jacked up. I started this shortly after, and I was battling it for a little while. That balanced out. My hormones are more balanced. My vitality, my energy. I mean, there's so many things.
Yeah.
Again, I did not. I. It's very difficult to wow me because I'm a
Yeah.
researcher, right?
Right.
And this has just delivered more and more than I could have
More.
even expected. My stomach is flat. I lost this brown, like there's different types of fat in our body. I had this
Yeah.
brown fat in like the sides, like the little saddlebag, the little tiny thing that was annoying that only goes
Yes.
away when I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
13% body fat.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that again. I like having some shape to myself. I'm a woman. I like to
Right.
have a little softness, but some, still
Yeah.
toned. And like day 7 or so, it just had melted because remember, when your body is getting fat, it's not going to store fat. It
Right.
uses sugar it's dysfunctional. And so you pack it on, but it's this, when your body feels, it's like the starvation mode thing. When people starve or they go on all these appetite
Bad
suppressants
diet.
and whatever,
Yep.
they suppress their appetite, their body, they might not be eating, but then their body's like, oh my God, we have to store, we have to
For
store, we have to
everything.
store. They go off the medicine and then they just go the other way because their body's like, oh, thank God, let's pack it on for the next time he or she starves himself. When
Right.
you give your body fat, it's like, oh my God, I can finally make hormones. I
Yeah.
can finally get rid of all this unnecessary fat because I know I'm getting some. I'm not in this lack mode. So the harmony, the homeostasis of your body, the calmness, the it's the harmony is there. And so your body can let go of things it was holding on to before. It's a trust thing. It's a
Yeah.
trust thing.
No, definitely. So you tell me the name of your podcast. For some reason I don't have it here.
Yeah. Yeah. The Next Level Podcast with Dr. Leslie. And it's so funny because today my episode drops on carnivore. So I had an
So
amazing guest. Yeah.
perfect.
Lorenzo Lazura was on my podcast. And we were talking about carnivore. He actually introduced me to it and kind of helped me through. And it's awesome. It's a really, really good episode. Lots of
That's
information tidbits too, if
I love
anyone's
that. All
interested.
right. So I'm going to
Yeah.
put that up there so people can find you because you are a wealth of information. So let me share that. Is that right?
Yeah, it's just Dr. Leslie.
Okay.
Last name is a give or a take. Yeah, it's fine.
Cool.
Great.
So yeah, you guys can find her there. And then I want to share so your Next Level podcast is all about kind of living life to the fullest, like basically what we're talking about, but in different areas of life.
Yes.
You're sharing what's working for you, what's working for other people, and allowing people to take in that information to decide what's right for them.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's in a nutshell. It started out as mostly wanting to share inspiring stories to help people understand they can get through their challenges and what were the pieces that helped people get to their next level.
Yeah.
And then it's really evolved into this. It's a life hack and self mastery, and
it.
that involves. I always talk about the 3 pillars, right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
your energy connection. It's your harnessing the power of your mind, your belief systems, right, and then your physical body. So self-mastery are basically the tools. It's understanding yourself. It's who am I? How do I make decisions? Where does my logic come from? How do I do life? How do I best flow? How do, all of those things that are individual for us.
Yep.
And then knowing the tools and the strategies to be able to do it. And then the life hacks are how do we do it in the most easy, fast, and like efficient way.
Right.
So it's kind of taking those two things and bringing them together. So I have all types of guests who have had all types of, crazy and wonderful and traumatic and beautiful experiences. And, I talk specifically about physical thing and diet, or I'll talk about their spiritual thing, or I'll talk about their challenge, whatever. But it's very much, covering all of those domains, and even some wealth and prosperity. I'm starting to incorporate more too, because really people don't think they can have it all.
Yeah.
Well, they
So
have all of this, but they're not wealthy.
yeah.
Well, we can have all of it. And so I want it to be a really comprehensive. It's not even health and wellness. I think that's what it's labeled as, but it's a personal
Yeah.
development. Personal development is our
Mhm.
environment, it's our wealth, it's our physicality, it's our connection, it's social, it's mind, it's all of the things.
The whole package.
Whole
Exactly.
package. I
So let's
deliver the whole package.
so and you also do a coaching program. Is this the coaching program that you're doing?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about that. So that's
Sure.
basically the same concept of you working one-on-one with people though, right? And
Yes.
clearing these blocks and helping people to get to their inner brilliance.
Right, exactly. So it's I used to yes, over the pandemic I was really drawn to doing strict coaching,
Yeah.
but I was really able to intuitively pick up on many, many things. It was part of one of the gifts that had unlocked in me. It was just there's so much that I was able to experience from somebody and seeing them. And it's really evolved now into using my understanding, my ability to connect and experience what's happening with them on a sort of more energetic level,
Right.
and using the mind and the physicality. It's really a total transformation. So living your mastery is a total transformation, because you have to have it on all levels. So I went from individual sessions, which I still will do on a select basis, but it's gravitated more into like a membership program where I work immersively with people who really want to take their life to the next level, to really
Right.
unlock it and really get the results quickly. Because I am someone who is results driven.
Yeah.
I'm someone who has, you know, through my own experience and self mastery, I really want to get people where they want to go quickly, and I can.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that's generally in the application process. I'm looking for people, I have people like that, but yes, it's I work with them on all levels wherever they're at, and it's very individual.
Yeah.
People say, well, what's your process? Well, my process is understanding where my clients are at in their
What
life.
their needs are. Yeah.
Yes, where
Yeah.
they want to go,
Yep.
and what they feel their challenges are in getting there and bridging that gap.
Right.
So I'm the gap bridger. And we use coach because coach
I
is the
know.
most common,
I
but
know.
I don't just coach. I actually do a lot of education. I'm more of a facilitator than a coach. I understand you and everything very in depth, and I have my whole toolkit and
Create
all
the
my
formula.
abilities, and I just individualize a program. Okay,
Yeah.
look, this is your belief system, and this is what you do, and this is the physicality, and this is where you want to go. The next most logical, easy, step for you is do this, this, this in each one of the domains, and we're going to do that. And we're going to work on that, and then as they evolve, we change the plan, and
That,
it goes from there.
that feels like a fast track.
It is. It's a life hack. I literally have. I mean, with my journey, as crazy and wild as my whole journey has been, it's like I have this huge suitcase of tools and guidance and information. It's just like literally here. This is what you need.
Well, you're helping people to uh, it's that whole idea of not having to have a learning curve. It's like, well, if you do this, this, and this is what you're
Yes,
going to get, instead of trying to figure it out. I've got
exactly.
the information, and intuitively so.
Yes, I mean, intuitively, but also through my experience. I mean, with all
Yeah.
my education and all the coaching and seeing patients for forever, and my own experience and my own challenging journey, and how I had to experience, so much of the heaviness of the human experience, the challenges.
Yeah.
My journey was very, very challenged, and it was meant to, because I had to immerse myself and get really down to be able to find the pathway up. And now I'm that gap bridger. I can say I've been there.
Yeah.
Trust me. I have been there. So it's allowed me to be able to really much more, and because I'm this investigator, and of course my doctoral degree only helped me give more of the tools that I need to be able to break this down, to be able to really seamlessly and very quickly understand where someone is, where they want to go, and fill those gaps and very, very easily. My job is, to bestow that pathway. When you feel blind and in the dark and you're in the forest and you cannot see
Yeah.
pathway, I can shine that light and provide that support. And your job, my client's job, is really just to be dedicated to that.
Right.
Like that's all they have to do, which for
Right.
some people it's difficult. I mean, for
Right.
me, it was like inherent in me, but it's like you get all of the things. You just have to be determined to apply it. That's
Right.
all I ask.
Yeah. Yeah. And if somebody comes to you and wants the transformation, then like you said, it's kind of an application process where it's like, well,
Yes.
are you really ready for this? Because you
Right.
feel to me like you're more, I'm not going to say, I don't want to say like advanced, like somebody who's a beginner can't work with you, but the idea of playing around with stuff, it's like, no, we're on a serious path
That's
here,
right.
people. We're like
Yes.
ready to hit it hard and get
Yes.
rid of all these limiting beliefs and live our lives to the fullest and stop playing around. Stop with the
That's
excuses
it.
and the baloney and right? Like,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Beginner or advanced, it doesn't matter. That's not part of it.
the willingness, right?
It's
The
it's the
determination.
willingness and the dedication. If you are determined, you need to be passionate
Yes.
about your desires.
Yes.
And that is really something that I need to understand in someone before I can like really take them on, because without passion, it's the any guru's book or whatever
Yeah.
you read, desire is the most important thing you need to have, because in those moments when the echo comes up and you're working and you encounter something that looks like a roadblock or a ghost, which
Yeah.
really isn't, it's just part
Yeah.
of the illusion, it's part of your process. It's that passion and drive that's going to get you to walk through that door when you need to be courageous, because this
Yes.
is a path of courage and you need the passion to be able to push through. So that's what's important. It doesn't, you could just be waking up, I got you, but
Yeah.
you need to be dedicated. I don't play around. You're absolutely right.
And I knew that about you. And I feel the same way. I just feel like, what is our point here?
Yes.
What are we doing with this life experience? Are we just getting through it? Are we waiting to die? What are we doing? Are we really truly living and getting out of those comfort zones that keep us the same and keep us stuck and keep us, beating ourselves up every day? Or are we really going to take this, take the car and drive? Right?
Right.
Yeah.
You got it.
I'd much rather drive than walk,
I mean, if you have the choice to, why would you not? And we all have the choice.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I actually said this in one of my presentations about, I can't remember what it was. It was about diet or mindset or whatever. And they're just like, well, because, with food, well, because it tastes good. It's like, okay. And that's fine. If you want to have the sugar, just understand that's a choice and then work within that. It doesn't mean you can't evolve or whatever, but just,
Yeah.
we all have choice. There are no
Right.
victims when people work with me.
No. No.
There are no victims.
My husband and
Trust
I,
me,
right?
I was so in victim mentality. I felt so disempowered and lacked confidence, and like my whole life fell
Mm.
apart and flopped on its head. And there was like no, it looked like no way forward. And I was in the victim place, and it's like
Yeah.
there was none. And I can say that because I felt victimized. I felt so disempowered, and I could not allow myself to choose that. I did not
Right.
allow myself to be victimized or
Right.
a victim again. And I'm not saying like things happen to people
Sure.
rightfully, right? They've
Sure.
been victimized, but we don't have to play that role. We
Play a
can
role.
take
Yeah.
what it means, work from it, grow, and use that as something to serve us. Everything serves a purpose. Even those horrible things that do happen to us, we don't have to allow it to define. And that's what
That's,
I mean by victim. There's a difference there. I don't want people to think that I'm like,
yeah.
you know, totally non-compassionate. I very much am. It's just in terms of our growth, we don't want to allow ourselves to be victim, because there's disempowerment in that. We want to be powerful. We want to be sovereign. We want to really live our best, and we have to be leaders. We have to be
Absolutely.
leaders of our own life.
Yeah. No. And you definitely are. You are a shining example of what it is to take your power back. And I love the fact that we're going to start closing up here, but I love the fact that you're a researcher and you have things backing everything you're saying. So you have the evidence, not only from research that you've done, but from what you've lived. Like, we can't teach from what we haven't learned. So you sharing your gifts with the world, your talents with the world, and coming on here and sharing with us, I'm just so incredibly grateful. And I can't wait to see what this future journey is going to be, because you have some incredible stuff coming up and people need to connect with you. And I'm going to stay connected to you because you just make the world a better place.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful. And I'm humbled by that. I mean, there are no words. I feel your love. I feel your appreciation. And I feel that with everything that I do. I'm so passionate about sharing all of my wisdom. So it's such a delight to be here to share and
you're doing
us have the synergy.
You're doing a good job in the respect of the law of compensation and adding value to the world. I feel it from you and I can see it from you. And it's just, if we can move the consciousness of the world and we can, help people to expand and grow, then we're all going to win. We're all going to win.
Absolutely. It's a collective thing that is, to help move humanity forward. That's what I'm here to experience. So let's do it.
Yes, let's do it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It was really a pleasure to have you here, and we love you all. Peace out.